The sun is a hammer. It beats down on the cracked, ochre earth, pulverizing the soilants into a shimmering haze. There is no wind, only the slow, suffocating press of heat. The world here is a great flat oven, and the riverbed clan is slowly roasting within it. They are a people of long legs and patient minds, a band of Homo erectus whose migrations have finally led them to a wall not of rock, but of fire and distance. Before them lies the great alt empty, a desert that kills all who walk it under the day sun. And the day sun is the only time it can be walked, or so the ancestors have always said. Their prison has a warden. They see it now, a distant, wavering shape in the heat mirage, patrolling the edge of the scrubland. A Giganotosaurus. It is a predator evolved for this furnace, its hide the color of dried blood and baked clay. It is larger than any tyrannosaur of the northern forests, a leaner, more resilient killing machine. It does not need shade. It thrives in the brutal glare that drives all other creatures to their burrows. To attempt to cross the desert is to offer oneself as a sacrifice to the hammer sun. To stay is to be cornered by the warden. In the thin shade of a rock overhang, the clan's leader, a grim, scarred man named John, checks the points on their spears. The tools of their lithic technology are well made, but they seem like children's toys against such a foe. The hunters are listless, their bodies slick with a sweat that does not cool them. "We need a plan," one of them mutters, his voice a dry crackle. The water vines are almost gone. John does not answer. He just stares out at the shimmering expanse, his mind a desert of its own, devoid of solutions. But one of them is not watching the warden. Olin sits apart, his back to the heat, his focus on a flat, dark stone he holds in his lap. He is not sharpening a blade. With a small piece of quartz, he is scratching dots onto the stone surface. He connects them with faint lines, forming patterns that mean nothing to anyone but him. He is a young man, his body weary and strong, but his eyes are often distant, lost in a place the others cannot see. John glares at him, "And you scratch at rocks like a child," he growls. "Your mind is always in the sky, Olin. We need it here, on the ground." Olin looks up, his eyes holding the strange, deep stillness of a star-filled night. He does not flinch from John's anger. "The ground is a trap," he says, his voice quiet, almost a whisper. "The sky is a path." He holds up the stone. The others see meaningless scratches. A pattern of dots that looks like a great, striding hunter. Another that looks like a horned beast. To them, it is the height of uselessness, a dangerous daydream in a world that punishes any lapse in attention with a swift and brutal death. As the sun finally begins its descent, painting the sky in fiery streaks, the clan feels the familiar dread of the coming night, a time of small, unseen predators. But Olin watches the first star appear like a diamond on blue velvet, and for him, it is not the coming of darkness, it is the unrolling of a map. Desperation forces the choice. John, his authority challenged by the clan's growing thirst, announces a plan. They will make a run for it. At the first light of dawn, the fastest of them will sprint across the salt flats, hoping to reach the distant, hazy mountains before the hammer sun reaches its zenith. And before the warden can catch their scent, it is a plan born of fear, not strategy. A dismissal of awe and strange sky gazing in favor of the familiar logic of muscle and speed. The clan's elders murmur their assent. It is a terrible gamble, but it is a concrete action, a physical response they can understand. The attempt is a catastrophe. 3 hunters, the clan's swiftest, set out at dawn. For a short time they are strong, their long legs eating up the cracked earth. Then the sun rises. The heat comes down like a physical blow. The shimmering mirages begin to dance, distorting distance, turning the world into a lyre. From the south, the Giganotosaurus appears. It does not charge. It moves with a terrifying, energy-conserving lope, its great head low, tracking the struggling figures. Built for this, it knows its prey will exhaust itself. The clan watches from the rocks, helpless, as the hunters falter. One by one, they stumble and fall, dark smudges against the white salt. The warden of the desert, patient and inexorable, claims its due. The silence that follows is heavier than the heat. Grief and despair settle over the clan, a shroud of failure. John sits with his head in his hands, the architect of their doom. In this moment of utter brokenness, Olin comes forward. He places his scratched stone on the ground in the center of the huddle. He begins to talk about the sky. "You see this one?" he asks, pointing with his quartz stylus to a bright point of light that has just appeared in the deepening twilight. "The one that does not move, the ancestor fire." He looks around at their faces, forcing them to see. All the other lights, they turn around it. They make a great wheel, but it stays. It is always there. He speaks of the hunter, the pattern of 3 bright stars in a row, and how it rises in the east and sets in the west, a celestial spear pointing the way. He speaks of the horned beast, a great V of stars that follows it. He is not telling stories. He is giving a lesson in the world's first and most profound science, celestial navigation. He explains that the ground lies and the sun kills, but the night sky is a map of perfect, unchanging truth. His voice ringing with a conviction that cuts through their despair. We follow the hunter. We keep the ancestor fire on our right hand. It will lead us. The warden sleeps in the cold. The sun cannot burn us. John looks from the bodies of his hunters still visible on the plain to the strange, brilliant boy and his map of embers. He looks at the faces of his clan, their eyes lifted to the heavens for the first time, not in fear, but in dawning, desperate comprehension. The ancestors spoke of the day, but the ancestors never had to face a prison like this. He gives a slow, heavy nod. The old way is dead. A new, terrifying path is opened. The world at night is an alien planet. The familiar landmarks are gone, swallowed by a deep, velvet blackness. The only features are the ones Olin points to in the sky, a glittering canopy of a scale they have never truly appreciated. Faith in Olin, and faith in the impossible idea that the distant, cold fire points can guide their feet. John takes the lead, his spirit arc line against the stars, but his eyes are constantly turned upward, seeking confirmation from Olin, who walks beside him, his stone map held like a sacred object. This journey is the birth of a new cosmology, a new understanding of their place not just on the earth, but under the heavens. The desert is not empty at night. The cold, which they had thought a friend, brings out the small hunters. Packs of slender, dog-sized raptors, swift and silent, shadow their steps. The raptors' chittering calls are a constant, unnerving presence at the edge of their hearing. The clan bunches together, a tight knot of warmth and fear, the children in the center, the hunters on the perimeter. They cannot see the threats, only hear them, a primal fear that is almost worse than the visible terror of the day warden. They learn to move with a new kind of silence, their feet shuffling on the salt-crusted earth, their survival dependent not on sight, but on Olin's unwavering voice. Keep the 3 bright embers on your left. The horned beast rises behind us now. The hours crawl. Thirst becomes a physical enemy, a rasp in the throat, a dull ache in the head. A child begins to cry, a thinned, wavering sound that cuts through the night. A raptor pack, emboldened, rushes in, a blur of motion in the starlight. John and the hunters form a wall of spears, a desperate, blind defense, stabbing at the darkness. They drive them back, but not before a hunter cries out, a warm wetness spreading on his leg. He is wounded, but he can walk. They press on, terrified procession held together only by the geometry of the stars. Olin never falters. He is the anchor in this sea of blackness. His knowledge, once a source of ridicule, is now the beating heart of the clan. He is the first of a new kind of human, a leader whose authority comes not from the strength of his arm, but from the clarity of his mind. He is the first navigator, the first astronomer, the first to prove that the greatest tool for survival is not a sharpened stone, but a pattern understood. Just as the first hint of grey begins to bleed into the eastern sky, they feel it. The ground beneath their feet is no longer flat, cracked salt. It is soft sand and pebbled earth. A low shape rises before them, a dark line against the coming dawn. The mountains. They have crossed the killing floor. They collapse at the foot of the hills, their bodies screaming with exhaustion, just as the sun's first rays crest the horizon. Far behind them, across the great empty. They see the shape of the Giganotosaurus emerge into the light, a frustrated king surveying an empty prison. They have not defeated their monster. They have simply walked a path it could not conceive of, a path written not on the earth, but in the embers of the universe. They are a new kind of people now, a clan of Homo sapiens whose world has just become infinitely larger. They had walked a map made of fire. In a single desperate night, they had unshackled themselves from the tyranny of the horizon and learned to navigate by the architecture of the cosmos. This was more than a journey. It was a redefinition of what it meant to be human. The universe was no longer a terrifying, chaotic roof over their heads, but a tool, a compass of impossible scale and perfect precision. Olen's discovery was the quietest and most profound revolution in our history. It was the moment abstract thought became a survival trait, the moment our gaze lifted from the dirt and the dangers before our eyes to the infinite and the eternal. This leap of imagination to see a path in a pattern of stars is the very essence of the human spirit. It is the root of all science, all exploration, all art. We survived not because we were stronger than the monsters that hunted us, but because we were the first creatures on earth to realize that the map to our salvation was written in the language of the gods, waiting to be read by anyone brave enough to look up. Our journey to the stars began the first time we used them to find our way home. And a map that can be read can also one day be rewritten.